Whenever I draw a character or an object, it always has a white background. Or if it did have a background, it was very minimal or blurred out, nothing really crazy. And whenever I would try to draw backgrounds in full detail, it never looked right. There's always something off about it or something that took away from the main character. So part of my artist diaries and learning how to draw, we are talking about backgrounds today. Hi everyone, my name is Sam Bell and welcome back to the Artist Diaries. And today we're going to be talking about backgrounds. So whenever I draw characters, they always have white backgrounds. There's nothing really to them. I think all of my characters actually never have had a background. They've been surrounded by like other objects or different things, but they've never actually had a background of their own. And I want to change that. I see all these pretty like illustrations online where they'll have this like super pretty background and like a character in a valley. I really think about the Howl's Moving Castle like fan art that everyone does, and it's like always on like that hilltop of Howl and Sophie, and it's just so beautiful. And I want to draw like that. I love how they look, and I don't think all my drawings will have backgrounds like that intensely, but I want some type of background going on in there. Also to be like my little wand. It's just a chopstick. But yeah, I feel like most of my backgrounds, like I don't even need them to have a crazy thing. I just don't want my characters on like flat color. That's kind of the main gist of it. I don't know, you can just get so much out of having a background with a character and you just create so much more depth, and it's just a lot more fun. And I just never got around to it, or just slap something on and call it a day, and then it made my drawing look worse versus better. So we're fixing that. So part one, foreground, midground, and background. There are actually 3 layers when you talk about backgrounds, and they are the foreground, midground, and background. So let's get into what those actually mean. And before I even started this, I had no idea what these were. Like I've heard the terms like foreground, midground, and background like a lot for like photography, I think, but I never actually like thought to apply that in my drawing. They are the 3 layers in a background drawing, or in a drawing. Not a drawing has to have all of these layers, but all of the time they do. They have different elements layered on top of each other to create that depth and that sense of environment in your drawing. So starting with foreground, it's the closest thing to the viewer in your drawing. Talking about midground, it really refers to that middle point in between the foreground and the background. And then the background is background. It's the very last thing in your drawing. It refers to the farthest thing in the back. Maybe it doesn't have as much detail. It's a lot, maybe more just color or kind of just blobs of color, honestly. Those are the 3 layers of an actual background drawing, or kind of a drawing. And ignore my sweatpants and cute top combo. It's literally 8 in the morning. I just go back from a dog walk and I need to film this video before I work today. I think with every video I do like a final piece of like all my knowledge kind of into one spiel. When I was doing that final piece, I had like a lot of leaves like framing my character, and then I make sure about my lighting, and I use different like layers to actually frame my person or to frame like what I'm trying to show mainly. So after learning about foreground, midground, and background, I then moved on to organic and inorganic shapes. So this topic actually kind of touches on next week of construction and form. I guess I got a little bit of a head start. So with organic and inorganic shapes are like they're leaves, they're things that don't need a perfect straight angle. Oh, how do I describe organic shapes? It's nature. It's really just nature in a way. Bushes, like flowers, those are all organic shapes. They don't have to have rules or guidelines to be described as that thing. Not every species of flowers look the same, or butterflies or leaves. They all look different because they're all organic shapes. And inorganic shapes are kind of like man-made things. So your phone, your table, your chair, a square, a cube, a cylinder, those are all inorganic shapes because they have to follow specific rules and speculations to be deemed that specific thing. For instance, a square has to have 4 straight sides all at 90 degrees to be considered a square. So when I was trying to think about background, I know I probably want to use a combo of both of these things. Of my inorganic shape would probably be a building, organic shapes maybe a tree lining or maybe some bushes. And I kind of took that into consideration when I was drawing certain things. My overall piece didn't have any inorganic shapes. They're all organic shapes, as in a person and some leaves and water, all organic shapes. But when I was practicing, I did do a lot more like building drawings, and that kind of helps me with like perspective that I did last week as well. You should go check it out, by the way. But when I was drawing kind of my buildings, I thought, how do I incorporate both of these things? And it's really not that hard. Organic shapes, because it's not as scary in a way if it doesn't doesn't look accurate, it can still look accurate. So I was definitely just focusing on my organic shapes of drawing trees with different values, and then moving on to inorganic shapes with like buildings and stuff like that, kind of drawing like some buildings first and houses, and really just seeing how they all look together. And then I ended up combining both of those things, so then I would have my building or my house really, and then I would add on my organic shapes again of like my trees and my bushes, just to see how they all kind of work together. Moving on to part 3 of drawing scenes and compositions. What I kind of mean by that is a full drawing in a way. Organic and inorganic shapes, I was just drawing those things on a white background and not really caring how they looked, in a sense of how they interacted together, just to kind of get a feel of what I could draw and where my limits were. But drawing scenes and the overall composition was a bit trickier. This meant filling up my whole page with like a street view. It kind of needed to be more precise. I had to make sure my perspective was right and accurate. So for this one, I kind of just chose like a cute little street scene that I found online. Nothing crazy, but it still had organic and inorganic shapes in it, so I could get a feel for how they all work together. Then I actually learned this tip. Ooh, I forgot the user's name. I will put it somewhere here. I'm gonna draw a character in one of these scenes. Draw it as a cube first, because with the cube, it's a lot easier to line up and see where your character's gonna go, and it will make sense of, then you can kind of map it out if that character will fit through the doorway that you drew. It just makes a lot of sense, and I really like that tip as well, so I kind of use that for a lot of things. I think maybe for like organic shapes, I wasn't as strict about it, but when I was kind of drawing in people, or I wanted to focus on that more, I was drawing like a bit more cubes to kind of get the general idea about it. I have that problem of adding on random shit and it doesn't look good. It does not look cohesive. It all looks like random bits just kind of piled on top of each other in a way. So I was making sure that as harmonious as I could, and really intentionally thinking of how do these kind of layers all go together, or layer of the backgrounds, like the actual background. I made sure not to add as many details. Like I made sure that my line art wasn't as thick or as focused there, because I didn't want you to look there really. That was just to add atmosphere and a sense of environment to my drawing. Things in my background, they didn't have as much color, or they weren't as detailed. They're kind of just blobs of things really. I did another kind of study, and I forget who it's from again. I love her online, but I'll pop her up somewhere here. And she was studying backgrounds as well. And for this one of painting a background, yeah, I didn't do line art really. I was really focusing on my values and not really worrying about if it looked perfect. What's perfect? And I was trying not to rely too much on my sketch either. I was just kind of adding layers as I went. I just kind of had fun, and I was just trying to get like a wide scope of where characters would be in the future. And yeah, I was kind of just picking a lot of different random sceneries in a way, of like some very inorganic, some organic, some a mix of both. Now for adding a character to a background, which is kind of think what this whole thing was amounting to, of I want my characters to have a stronger background and a more detailed drawing. I just want a better composition. Like I don't want my drawings to always be on a white background or to look flat. I want to try and experiment with different things and adding different elements. I want my character to be in the environment and to be interacting with different things. So the main thing I took away from this is that you can't draw them separately. You need to draw your character with your background, if that makes sense. I feel like when you draw a character and then add on a background, it's a lot harder to actually make it look cohesive and to make it look good. So when I was doing this kind of final drawing, I took that into consideration, and I just studied a reference photo for this one. I didn't really have a creative spark in me to make my own thing. So I chose this cute photo. You've kind of seen the snippets the whole video, but it's a photo of a girl surrounded by kind of lily pads, and I definitely added things on. Like foreground was a lot foregroundy, and it framed my character a lot more. And then my character was actually in the midground, and then my background was very muted, and you couldn't really tell what was going on, which is kind of the idea. Yeah, when I was drawing this, I was really intentionally thinking of the character in the environment. I like took the time to actually draw out everything and like the background and what I want to look like. So I feel like in the past I've really just rushed it, or not really given a shit about it. I've just like thrown it on and said, okay, good enough. And I think having that kind of perspective of thinking of my character in the environment gave a lot more harmonious feeling to it, and I was really happy with the outcome as well. It also made me like less scared to draw complex backgrounds. And I do like what I was saying earlier, like the Howl's Moving Castle scene. Like I would love to kind of try and draw that of like a character in a valley and one in the future, but I was really happy with like my lily pad water scenes. I don't draw water a lot either. Ooh, a chipmunk. I don't know, it just felt good to like have a finished drawing. I was really proud of myself. I finished it. It took me a couple hours, I think like 4 or 5 hours. Now kind of moving on to my final thoughts of drawing backgrounds, it's not as scary as you think. I know that I was a victim of this too, of just slapping things on and calling it a day. You kind of pick your battles of when you're drawing a full background or when you're doing a more blurred out look. I really think about the character in the space now. I think about how they interact with certain things, what are they doing. It just kind of gives my character more depth, and it just makes it more fun in a way too. Like I feel like I'm very into the story of the character I'm drawing. What are they doing in the environment? Why are they there? It kind of makes you build more on it. I've neglected like drawing like nature, and I think nature is, like, especially trees, are a scary thing to draw sometimes because it looks like there's so many leaves. It's looks like such a complex thing to draw. I think after doing like the painting study and practicing drawing my organic shapes, it's not as scary anymore because I don't need to draw all of those leaves. I can just draw what I see and what I want the viewer to see. So I would definitely suggest, like, when you're drawing backgrounds, think of them as one thing versus two separate pieces to have that harmonious look. It'll pay off in the end as well. That's backgrounds. They're not as bad as you think. And I think if I can do it, you can certainly do it too. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was me learning to draw backgrounds, and I think I'll be drawing more backgrounds in the future. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye. Hi, Angel Muffin. Oh, he's sleepy.